kind of jump in. We got a few different things to cover. The aggravated assaults, one of them was Saturday evening. This was about 9 p.m. at outside a laundromat at 14th and Minnesota. So we had a guy that was inside that came outside. There was a couple of people that were in the parking lot kind of walking his direction. There were some words that were exchanged. The guy that was our victim had been inside and then ended up going to his vehicle. Once he was in his vehicle, he ended up hearing several gunshots. Thought somebody was firing a gun at him. There were a lot of other people that heard the gunshots as well. So they were able to figure out who this other person was that had the gun, and then it was, I don't have a time on that. It was the next morning. Let me look at one other thing here. The next morning he was found back at the same area, actually, and he was arrested for aggravated assault and reckless discharge of a firearm. He did have a gun with him when he was arrested. We believe that was probably the same gun that was used. And yeah, it was about 2:30 a.m. is when he was, somewhere in that time frame when he was arrested. No injuries, no reports of any damage to anything. And do you want his name? Yes, last is Appleton, Appleton. First is Tyrone, Tyrone. Middle is Lee, Lee. And he's 28 from Sioux Falls. The other aggravated assault, this it was actually reported on Sunday afternoon, but it happened Friday morning, maybe around 2 a.m. We had a couple of girls that were in a car, and it sounds like a ex-boyfriend ended up chasing them, so he ended up pulling in front of them near 11th Street and Summit, got out of his vehicle and fired a gun at the car. Things kind of separated after that. Not sure why the victim waited, but she was obviously concerned. But so a couple days later is when she made the report. So we know who that person is, have not found him yet, so no arrests have been made. Her car was damaged, but no other injuries. I'm going to jump to the robberies. We've got a few of those. The first one was Sunday afternoon. This was a little after 2 p.m. and this was in the 6500 block of West Grove Place. So we had a couple of guys that were inside the home there. There was a knock at the door. They were expecting another person to show up, and so when the victim opened the door, there were 3 guys there. One of them immediately punched him. They basically came inside. One of the suspects had a gun. Another one had a machete. They punched the victim several times. The second victim was hit with the machete in the wrist area. Sounds like a couple of them, or both of them, may have been slapped. I guess, I don't know if that's the right term, but used the flat part of the machete, and they were hit with that part. The second victim was injured from the cut to his wrist, was going to need some medical attention on that, but the 3 men ended up searching the home and then leaving. They're not sure why they were targeted. We have some cash, wallet, and then truck keys were taken, and then they ended up taking the truck that had been parked outside. So don't have a whole lot of information on the suspects. They didn't really have much for a description at all, so we'll still do some working onto this. The first victim was 39 years old. The second victim with the cut is 45 years old, both from Sioux Falls. The next robbery, this was Sunday evening. This was just about 10 p.m. This was in the 1000 block of North Bunker Place. Our victim was outside the home. There was a couple of guys that came driving up, and there's some small talk that happened between the two of them. I think they were asking for some money or something, and he was on the phone, and he just said no, he didn't have any. The two guys came up to the victim, ended up punching him. He fell to the ground. He was kicked several times, and at one point said he lost consciousness. When he came to, he was in a different park, or different, sorry. When he came to, he was in a different part of the trailer park. So they had picked him up and either drove him or carried him to a different area. Doesn't sound like, I think he only had a cell phone that was missing. No serious injuries with that, and this is another one, he did not know who the two suspects were. The last robbery, that was a gas station, that was Come and Go, that was early this morning, just after 1 p.m. That was the one at Rice Street and Cliff Avenue. The suspect was in the store, grabbed quite a few items, went up to the counter and ended up threatening the clerk with a gun, and then took his items and then left. There is surveillance there, so we'll work on getting that, but no injuries. Let's see, the rape, actually there's 2 rapes in the log, one of them is a duplicate, but this was another late report one. So it happened on Friday and was reported on Sunday. This was, we had an arrest that was made, but this was another kind of on again, off again boyfriend, girlfriend, and there was some type of disagreement. He ended up assaulting her and then raped her. She did not immediately report it. There was another incident, and that's why we were called on Sunday. But once she reported that and officers learned the details, the suspect was arrested for aggravated assault, domestic, and then 1 count of rape. The domestic charge is from a strangulation during the assault. Do you want his name on that one? Last is Adams, A-D-A-M-S. First is Mandre, M-A-N-D-R-E. Middle is Clown, C-L-O-W-N. He's 24, from Sioux Falls. And the victim is also 24, from Sioux Falls. I think that's kind of it. The other domestics, there was a truck that was stuck on a retaining wall. Sounds like it had been there for quite some time, a couple of hours maybe. Somebody called finally. The officer showed up, and as he was talking to the people, trying to get them to turn the car off, the driver ended up backing up and hit the officer. He was out of the car at the time, no serious injuries with that, and then the truck was able to free itself and then drove off. So we've got some information, believe we know who the suspect is, but haven't found him yet. The other 2 aggravated assaults were domestics. The burglaries, houses and apartments, had a couple of storage units. Nothing big from the disorderlies. Embezzlement with both vehicles. Family offenses are primarily protection orders and stalking. Frauds, a lot of ID thefts, some of the reports, nothing real high dollar. Larceny, didn't hear of anything big, no big quantities on the narcotics. Sex offenses, all of those are reports. The domestic or simple assaults were more domestics. Vandalisms, I didn't have a chance to get to anything of those. There's 2 weapons violation or weapons calls. One was, I guess, created in error, and the other was somebody that had a concealed knife, but hadn't threatened anybody, no injuries with that one. And that's it, unless you guys have anything else. Okay, thanks.